Bună seara, doamnelor și domnilor! Mă numesc Dumitru Pelin și vă invit la o nouă ediție a emisiunii NordNews Live. Invitatul meu din această seară este Excelența Sa, ambasadorul delegației Uniunii Europene în Republica Moldova, domnul Janis Mazeiks. Bună seara și bine ați venit!
Bună seara, bine v-am găsit!
Domnule Mazeiks, cu ce scopuri ați ajuns în nordul Republicii Moldova astăzi?
Okay. Well, today I was on a regional visit that we do quite often to see the projects that the European Union is implementing. And today we went to Jedinets, where we spent practically the whole day seeing very different projects that have been implemented with EU support, and where we see really quite a lot of impressive changes. And we were, well, in fact, the mayor was unveiling in the evening a plaque which said that Jedinets is a smart city, and I must agree with him that really, with rather modest investment from the EU side, if we look at the side of some other projects, we have managed to bring very major changes to a town which I think has very good outlook for the future.
Domnule ambasador, în data de 14-15 decembrie va avea loc Consiliul European de iarnă, în cadrul căruia se va decide sau nu începerea negocierilor de aderare al Republicii Moldova și al Ucrainei la Uniunea Europeană. Există șanse ca în cadrul acestui Consiliu Republica Moldova să primească sau nu începerea negocierilor?
Well, I think that the Republic of Moldova has done what it could to get to the best possible result for itself, and the reflection of that homework that the country has been doing for the past year and a half is the progress report which was published on 8th of November, which recognizes the fact that the Republic of Moldova meets the Copenhagen criteria, and that is very important to start accession negotiations, and where the European Commission makes a recommendation to the Council to start the negotiations, while at the same time noting three areas where more needs to be done. That is in the justice area, on the appointments and vetting of the judiciary professionals, on fighting corruption, and also on de-oligarchization. But the starting point for Republic of Moldova is very good, and that's also reflected in the evaluation of how Republic of Moldova has moved on the implementation of the EU legislation or acquis, where among the 33 chapters in less than a year, the country has improved its ratings in 9 different chapters, which I think is a very important achievement. But what we have to recognize is that this discussion on 14th and 15th of December in the Council will be a political one, because this is a meeting of the heads of state and government who, of course, each of the 27 member states have their own perspectives, their own interests, also their own possible political and geopolitical considerations. So at this stage I would not be able to predict how this discussion will go, because it's not only about Republic of Moldova, it's not only about Ukraine, but it's also about Georgia, it's also about Bosnia-Herzegovina, and how this discussion on enlargement will go on, and what will be the outcome. I hope, of course, for a positive outcome for Republic of Moldova, because indeed you have been moving as a country very well forward, but I cannot tell what will be the outcome on this, because this needs the consensus decision of all the 27 member states. And as you can see, there are very different pieces that need to fall together.
Ce va avea de câștigat Republica Moldova în procesul de începere a negocierilor și a procesului de aderare la marea familie europeană?
Well, first, the important win is at the end of the negotiations, because these are negotiations about Republic of Moldova becoming a EU member state with all the rights and obligations. And of course that brings lots of benefits for a country, and especially for a smaller country like Republic of Moldova, because that is, we just were discussing the consensus, and that is really where the small countries have as big a say as big countries. So country like Estonia or Latvia have the same weight as France, and of course that would be also the case for Republic of Moldova, where I think this weight of your country will be much bigger. And of course this also brings many practical benefits, because once a country becomes a member state, it can use the different structural funds which are meant to diminish the differences in the economic development among different regions of the European Union. So those countries that are our lower level of development receive much bigger support than those who are higher. And that also means that gradually those who have a lower level are getting to the level of the EU average. And we see that this is really happening in practice for those countries that have joined the European Union, that their average has more than doubled since they have joined the European Union. But as you rightly mentioned, it's not just about the end, because from my perspective, it's also the way to the European Union that brings you benefits. And these benefits are of different nature. Sometimes it is about the possibilities of joining different EU programs. Like for instance, quite recently, Republic of Moldova could start applying for Connecting Europe facility projects on the same rights level as member states. So if Republic of Moldova is able to submit a project that is a good project, that is benefiting its infrastructure and interconnection with the European Union, you have this chance that you wouldn't have had in the past. But it's also about the improvement on how the country operates. Because what the negotiations are about, it's about implementing the EU legislation. And the EU legislation is there for a reason, and that reason is the well-being of the EU citizens. In other words, if you apply the same very high standard in your legislation, and not only legislation but also how the Moldovan institutions apply this legislation, that means that the quality of the Moldovan citizens will improve even before you have become a member state. Of course, it will mean that there will be also costs involved, because each of these implementations take resources, including human resources. But at the end of the day, what we already see now is that, for instance, if a Moldovan exporter wants to export to the European Union, they need to meet a very high quality standard, health standard, but the added value is that the same high standard then it can also benefit the Moldovan consumers.
Pentru Republica Moldova este un stat mic, cu o populație puțină, practic care nu aș spune că este un stat industrializat, probabil cunoașteți mai bine. Pentru Republica Moldova ar putea fi urgentată sau mărită viteza de începerea negocierilor și a procesului, și atât a negocierilor cât și de aderare, într-un pachet cumva special.
Well, okay. If the question is about whether there can be some shortcuts in the negotiations, no, there can't be any shortcuts, because again, it's not like the Republic would be about to become a bit of a EU member state. No, it's really about the full rights and obligations. And that is why it is very important for the EU institutions and for the member states to be sure, to be absolutely sure that the country that is joining is, in these fundamental ways, very much similar to those countries that are currently in the European Union. Of course, there are things that make countries different. Like, for instance, there are different setups of the judiciary or legislation, but that is proceeding from the same grounding principles of rule of law, of respect for human rights, respect for rights of minorities, of functioning market economy, of capacity to implement all these important things. And that's why this process will most likely be quite lengthy and quite thorough. So there are going to be any shortcuts for the Republic of Moldova or for any other country.
Excelență, o altă problemă pentru Republica Moldova o reprezintă Transnistria. O posibilă integrare a noastră, ca țară, se poate face fără Transnistria?
Well, the short answer is yes, you can, but we hope you wouldn't. And let me elaborate a bit, because for us the hope is that these processes will take place in parallel, that the Republic of Moldova would be negotiating the accession to the European Union, while at the same time working on the reintegration of the country. Because for us, we are working with the Republic of Moldova within its internationally recognized borders, that of course includes the Transnistrian region. But having said that, we wouldn't see it fair if the country was taken hostage by the solution to this quite complex problem. So that is why we do not exclude the possibility that this could take place in stages. But as I said from the outset, I hope that this issue will be resolved by the time that the Republic of Moldova is ready to join the European Union. And of course, this will be one of the aspects that we will be looking at also at the negotiations, because the EU legislation needs to be applied on the whole territory of the Republic of Moldova. And of course, right now the situation is divergent on the two banks of the Dniester River.
Președintele Republicii Moldova, Sandu, spunea că integrarea Transnistriei ar putea fi cumva în două viteze. Prima parte se integrează Republica Moldova, iar Transnistria ar trebui să urmeze exemplul Republicii Moldova, când calitatea vieții la noi în țară s-ar îmbunătăți.
That of course is a possibility, because one thing which I can be quite sure about is that given the experience of the member states that have joined the European Union in the past 20 years, once the Republic of Moldova joins the European Union, yes, your level of welfare will be growing quite significantly. There is this catching up that has taken place for practically all the member states that have taken place in the past. But this is a process which is not just about economy. There's a security dimension, there's political dimension. How this will play out at this stage, I would not be prejudging, because you still have quite a lot of years ahead of you before any of such dilemmas would present themselves.
Din ce în ce mai multe voci din Uniunea Europeană vorbesc de un refuz pentru Ucraina și deja premierul maghiar, Viktor Orban, a solicitat structurilor UE să nu pună pe masă Consiliului European decizia de a începe a negocierilor de aderare cu Ucraina. Acest lucru va afecta Republica Moldova? Poate Republica Moldova să iasă într-un fel din acest pachet cu Ucraina și să fie analizată, judecată independent de Ucraina?
Well, first, each of the countries is being judged on its own merits. That has been the case in the past, and that's how Republic of Moldova and Ukraine have gotten so far, because in 2022, when the European Commission was issuing its opinion on Republic of Moldova and on Ukraine, already then you could see that there is each of the countries is looked upon on its own merit, because, for instance, Republic of Moldova got highlighted 9 steps that the country needed to work on harder to get to the next stage, and for Ukraine it was 7 steps, and for Georgia it was 12. So you can see that in each of the cases each country is being treated separately. At the same time, it is also clear that there has been the Ukrainian context, that we can remember that how the Republic of Moldova obtained the status of a candidate country in 2022, which started with the horrible Russian aggression against Ukraine and the solidarity for Ukraine among the EU member states. And as in addition also to the Republic of Moldova, because obviously you were so much affected by the war in Ukraine, and of course there has been the gratitude of the European Union for the solidarity that you have shown in practical terms, both for the refugees and for Ukraine as a country in the past 2 very difficult years. And as I said, this discussion in December will be not just about the Republic of Moldova. How this will play out and what will be the possible decisions, possible linkages, it is very difficult to speculate, because as I mentioned, it's not only about Republic of Moldova, it's not only about Ukraine, but there's also Georgia, there's also Bosnia and Herzegovina. So this puzzle will be addressed all together, and how these pieces of the puzzle will develop, we will see, unfortunately not today, but hopefully towards the end of 15th of December.
Ok. Federația Rusă, probabil cunoașteți declarația lui Lavrov, da, a acuzat partenerii de dezvoltare ai Republicii Moldova că ar transforma țara noastră într-o victimă a unui război hibrid. Cum vedeți dumneavoastră implicarea Kremlinului în războiul hibrid în Republica Moldova și dacă Chișinăul poate câștiga această confruntare?
I think you are showing that you can win this confrontation, and in fact you have already quite a good track record on it. Because yes, whenever Russia is speaking about hybrid war being done by someone else, in fact it's mirroring what it has been doing itself and what it is doing now. We have some slightly older examples which predate the war in Ukraine, when basically this very unexpected decision by Gazprom not to prolong the contract on the terms that had been in place for years in October 2021 made the Republic of Moldova work very, very hard together with the European Union to find alternative solutions. So, and then we have seen things that have developed during the war in Ukraine, be it the influx of foreign funds towards local elections, or a very recent example when all of a sudden the Russian Federation has announced that apparently Moldovan apples have once again become bad and not suitable for export to the Russian Federation. I think this is proving the fact that Russian Federation is not a reliable partner, and I think that this is something that both Moldovan government and Moldovan society and Moldovan businesses have also recognized in their practical terms. By now, your gas dependence on Russia is gone. You have also shown that in the worst case you can manage also with electricity without supplies that would have any role for Russia. The European Union is by far your biggest export market, and even on apples, which is a traditional product that has been exported to the Russian Federation, we see this very strong growth in both apples and plums towards the European markets. That shows that also the businesses are reorienting themselves to perhaps a more demanding market, but a market with very high quality standards, but also a quite stable market, predictable market that doesn't play games of the hybrid warfare, and a market which pays a good price for a good product. And I think that is the future for the Republic of Moldova. When it comes to the rhetorics, I'm afraid this will be your reality for quite some years to come, that you will have accusations from Moscow of being wrong on something, or doing the wrong things, or saying the wrong things. But that is the experience that more than one candidate country has experienced, and then you have just to ask yourself, does that affect your interests or not? If your interests are more affected by what will play out in the long term, namely that you have the historical chance of becoming part of a very big group of like-minded countries which cherish democracy and where there is a functioning market economy. Well, that is the direction you should go, and just take it as a fact that you will have both some angry statements or some elements of hybrid warfare along as you go.
Ați fost la Iedineț, cum ați menționat și la începutul emisiunii, un municipiu care în ultimii ani a beneficiat de proiecte importante finanțate de Uniunea Europeană. Cât de deschisă este Uniunea Europeană să ajute și alte administrații publice locale, inclusiv municipiul Bălți. Și în ce domenii cheie ați putea să ajutați?
Well, yes, Iedineț was a very inspirational visit today because Iedineț has, and it's not only a municipality, it's also the people there who have used the opportunities that the European Union provides. And that's largely the answer that I would have for your question. It is largely about both the local communities' activity, also about the civil society organizations or the business organizations, how much they follow what the European Union is offering and how much they are using these opportunities. Because how we operate is that we have the proposals for projects where different structures can apply, be it local governments or be it civil society organizations or sometimes it is business, and it's just then a matter of writing good projects and submitting them and then advancing with them, hopefully. For us, what is important is that we have projects in all parts of the Republic of Moldova. And also what is important for us that these projects are run well, because this is money from the EU taxpayers, and it is therefore very important for us that it is spent for the right purpose. So the only restriction I can imagine is that those municipalities who have said that they don't care where money comes from as long as they have money, well, they may have also difficulty attracting EU funds, because for us the element of integrity is very much important. If someone is saying that they don't care where money comes from, well, I would have my doubts whether that person is going to apply the very strict standards that we are requesting from the project implementers when dealing with EU funds. But other than that, I would just encourage all municipalities to apply for projects in Bălți. We have had projects, there is both the transportation, means of transportation that have been provided by the European Union, and there have been energy efficiency projects, and also projects with civil society organizations. So I would hope that we will have also the same approach, activity and transparency also in the future from Bălți and also all the other municipalities.
Noi am observat că ultimii 5 ani viața la Iedineț s-a schimbat și Bălțul, o vreme îndelungată, a fost un oraș închis, considerat a fi un fief, da, al stângii anti-europene. Odată cu alegerile locale a fost ales un primar cu viziuni pro-europene. Cel puțin asta reiese din declarațiile lui publice, care a afirmat că unica soluție de dezvoltare a orașului Bălți sunt proiectele pro-europene și unica cale de dezvoltare a Republicii Moldova este calea europeană. Deci probabil trebuie să înțelegem că gândurile actualului primar, da, sunt îndreptate spre partenerii de dezvoltare din Occident. Pe ce ar trebui să se axeze conducerea municipiului Bălți, da, în colaborare cu reprezentanța Uniunii Europene la Chișinău și cu Uniunea Europeană în general.
Okay, well, first it is very encouraging that we hear many politicians in Republic of Moldova increasingly expressing their support for the European vector of development of the country and for European integration of the country. Indeed, I would hope that eventually the idea of, and not only the idea, but also the work on European integration is something that becomes a unifying factor for the Moldovan society, because for us this is not an issue of whether a political party has a right-wing or left-wing views or centrist views. As you know, in the European Union we have plenty of parties across the spectrum of politics. What really matters is how these parties are acting in deeds, whether these pro-European words are also expressed in deeds. And I can imagine more than one way how one can show his or her pro-Europeanness, like indeed submitting projects, being transparent in their implementation, being supportive of transparency of the local administration. I don't know how much of that is applicable to the city of Belz, but basically this is what really makes the different municipalities more European. For instance, services where one of the things which we were opening today was a one-stop shop in Belz, in Jedinets. And of course, these, on one hand, it is about the convenience for the people, because, well, you don't need to go to different agencies, you just go to one place and you address your need, and hopefully in the future it would be also possible to do online. But it's also about the transparency of the city administration and eradicating possibilities for corruption, because, well, if you're interacting at this one window with one person, it's completely different than if you would be sent from one cabinet to another, and without clarity, and perhaps being dropped hints that, well, there are different ways how to do this. All these things are what makes a municipality more transparent. And similarly, also it's about the involvement of the people. I don't know if you have the local action groups here or something similar. For instance, one of the projects that we were unveiling today was a series of grants to the associations of homeowners. So 5 different associations of homeowners in Jedinets had been deciding themselves, basically having a list of things that they could do for their own little rayon, and then choosing the things that was most important for them. For some it was a playground for the children, for some it was the barrier so that their children could be safe in their backyard and cars from other parts would not be passing uncontrollably. For some it was a new parking. This is really the citizens then deciding what they want to do, and I think that's also what makes them European, because they are involved in taking decisions that concern themselves. And I have seen this same thing with local activity groups, local action groups in the Republic of Moldova that have been growing, that indeed it's not big sums of money in these cases, but people are thinking how to do things best. So I think all these directions are the ones which I would suggest for any municipality that wants to be European indeed.
Ce le-ați transmite dumneavoastră cetățenilor care sunt dominați de stereotipuri despre Uniunea Europeană, adică care sunt victime ale propagandei, și că să veniți, nu știu, poate Uniunea Europeană nu este ceea ce vă spun ceilalți. Cum le-ați explica că ce ar însemna Uniunea Europeană pentru Republica Moldova?
Well, I think that first we have proved that we are a friend and a partner. One of the expressions that I have learned in Romanian is prietenul la nevoie se cunoaște. And I think we have really been a friend in need for Republic of Moldova, because we have mobilized in less than 2 years almost 1.2 billion euros in the many crises that your country was facing. But it's also the future partner for Republic of Moldova, and I think that at the end of the day, people know in their hearts that much of the propaganda is wrong. Well, I meet young people in schools quite often, because we have this format of European dialogues where we have questions and answers with myself and my colleagues from the European member states. And whenever we are interacting with the young people, be it in the north of the country or in the south, these are usually the same kind of questions. They are interested on how big is the salary in the European Union, or how I can study in the European Union, or when will the accession negotiations start with the European Union. Never anyone has asked me about those things that are the big scare stories about the European Union, like the European Union and the propaganda of non-traditional values or something like that. Frankly, the European Union is a community of quite family-friendly countries, in many respects even more family-friendly than what I have witnessed also here in the Republic of Moldova, but that's a longer story. But I think that you, as many of the EU highest representatives have already said, are part of the European family, because you are like European citizens in your actions, in your thinking. It's just a matter of doing the steps that you need to take to get in that family formally by becoming the EU citizens. And of course you have challenges that the EU citizens do not face, like having major corruption in the court system, which needs to be cleaned up. But we have seen that this has been the reason why the people of the Republic of Moldova have voted for the political forces that have promised to clean up the judiciary. So I am quite hopeful for the future.
Excelență, vă mulțumesc foarte mult că ați dat curs invitației și ați venit în studioul NordNews. Vă așteptăm și cu alte ocazii. Vă dorim succes și vă așteptăm mai des la Bălți și în nordul Republicii Moldova.
Thank you very much, and this is one of my many trips in the north of the country. I'm looking forward to coming back again.
Doamnelor și domnilor, în această seară l-am avut alături pe Excelența Sa, ambasadorul delegației Uniunii Europene în Republica Moldova, domnul Janis Mazeiks. Eu mă numesc Dumitru Pelin și vă urez o seară cât mai liniștită.